we welcome in Kevin Green to discuss Tesla. A common theme here on this show is discussions around the EVs and particularly Tesla. So happy to have senior markets correspondent Kevin Green here for us to talk about the potentially the king of EVs. I think, is that the story? Is it from the Journal?
Yes, we are seeing that from the Journal here, and they're actually really talking about their ability to expand their charging stations, and that could be a pretty significant core of their business here moving forward, and rightfully so. It's actually one of the fastest growing areas of Tesla, and when you're looking at the charging stations as well as the storage or energy storage space here, they are calling out the fact that Tesla is able to be able to get federal grant awards at around, when they put their bids in for these federal grants, they're around 50% less when it comes to cost compared to its competitors. And they do believe that the construction costs for these charging stations are more efficient than other competitors as well. So this could also be a little bit of a windfall. And Alex, as some companies that have the ability to gain government funding really do rely on that type of funding, and usually is a pretty secured way to be able to gain revenue here. So that expansion can definitely help out. And when we are looking at the market landscape in itself, we are seeing a lot of the competitors or major competitors here in the United States really trying to adopt Tesla's charging stations and really forming these partnerships with them. So if they could corner that particular market, that could be once again another tailwind when it comes to this name here. And that's what the Wall Street Journal is really calling out here. One thing to kind of also note, I think right now is just coming up with the infrastructure strategy. And if we see Tesla really trying to put out a plan for the federal government and for this industry as well, to be able to select certain areas to put these charging stations at. Now, I think that could also, gain a little bit more momentum when it comes to this business here in the near term and long term, especially in a election year, which is where they could be on the ballot, if you will, in some respects, to be able to try to gain additional funding. And I think both sides of the aisle are really open to that type of that infrastructure spending when it comes to EVs, because we do know that this is going to be the wave of the future. So that's what the Wall Street Journal is also reporting here. We also had some China EV numbers that came out over the weekend here, and they did state that Tesla actually made around 84,159 China-made EVs here. That was around a 9.3% increase on a year-over-year basis. And if you're looking at the Model 3 and the Model Y, that actually rose about 30.9% on a month-over-month basis when it comes to those deliveries. So we are seeing some growth here and some impact when it comes to these pricing wars that we are seeing here in China. But at the end of the day, Tesla has committed to having this strategy of trying to be very price flexible. And with the infrastructure that they've already built out with these gigafactories, they want to be able to maximize them as much as they possibly can, because if they do not, then the incremental cost per vehicle also increases, which is not going to be a benefit for them. Now, we did hear some chatter last week when it came to their Berlin factory and potentially having them reduce their production targets here for the end of July and into August. We're going to see if that actually does come to fruition here. Maybe that's some softness in the market, or maybe they are retooling it for another model that they're going to bring out here in the near future. But when you're looking at the China data, we are seeing a lot of cars being sold here. They are capturing some market share, and I think that's a really big positive for Tesla. And we are seeing the shares up around 4% in the session right now.
You know what I find interesting about Tesla, Kevin, that it actually is against its peers that are the domestic Chinese manufacturers, but it's not actually on top when it comes to the numbers, on a numbers basis. It did on percentage basis month over month, but can you tell us a little bit about how its competitors performed versus Tesla during that quarter?
Yeah, so the biggest competitor that they have right now is BYD, and they actually delivered around 274,000 vehicles for the month here, and that was actually around a 57.5% increase on a year-over-year basis. But one thing to note, Nicole, BYD really does focus on selling hybrid vehicles. So right now, China's data kind of mixes in hybrid as well as just pure EVs or BEVs, battery electric vehicles. So sometimes this data can be a little bit skewed. And the reason why they kind of mingle these two data points together is because the majority of the population that's buying these hybrids are really only utilizing the electric portion of the hybrid vehicle because they live in predominantly populous areas. And so that's why they really mingle these numbers together. But if you're looking at the profit margins and when it comes to the per per vehicle car sales in itself, Tesla still does outperform. They're just not outperforming when it comes to pure volume being delivered to China customers. But once again, you have to have that balance of having the most deliveries and or the better profit margins. And that's really why we have seen a huge premium when it comes to Teslas, because they're able to profit a lot more when it comes to their cars at 18%, 19% here, if you're looking at the United States, rather than maybe some other EV players or hybrid players that are out there that are only making around 5% or maybe 6% margins when it comes to the cars. So obviously they need to sell more in order to be a little bit more profitable. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but Tesla's definitely taking it in stride and continuing to ramp up their production in China. And hopefully we start seeing a little bit of an end to this price war, a little bit more price stability here, and that's going to provide investors a little bit more ease or calmness when it comes to the future outlook for Tesla here in the near term. In the long term, investors that invest in Tesla are really bullish on this name, and I continue to talk to them on a day-by-day basis.
You know, Kev, I don't know why we're continued to be surprised by this. I mean, this is just seemingly every single day. There's a million stories on Tesla, and at least today, the balance of them are shifted to the positive. Stock up almost 5%, though. It's pretty impressive. Thanks to Kevin Green for the breakdown of the laundry list of Tesla stories from over the long weekend.